I shouldn't say girls, one of the young women who was presenting had a lot of like Instagram videos, so she was able to switch back and forth,
Okay,
and
cool,
it
cool,
worked.
cool.
So hopefully this will be pretty slick. But we've got the recording going live. So I have got Zach here talking about transition game and face-offs in the boys game. So I'll let him introduce himself and kind of take it away from there. So it's all yours, Zach.
Perfect. Yes. Yeah. Obviously, yes. Thank you, Catherine, for inviting me to do this. I'm super excited to be able to talk about just the transition game and facing off. Kind of throughout this, like how I'm presenting. Definitely talking a lot about transition. Trying to incorporate face off strategy throughout that. Um, yeah, just showing a lot of clips from when I was playing or when I was coaching as well. Just trying to show that, right, like transition isn't just off of like a save, right? When a goalie makes a save, I think that's kind of how a lot of people know about it. But right, even just off of a face off, like there's so many countless opportunities to be able to take advantage and to score. So yep, super excited just to be able to present, present what I know. So I think cool. Is this sharing awesome?
Yeah.
Let's see. Perfect. So yes, just a little bit about me. So I am pretty new to Minnesota. I've lived here for the past 3 years, actually. I'm from Denver, Colorado originally. Started playing lacrosse actually a lot later than other people. I played in started in the 8th grade. Um, So I was relatively new when I started, but definitely loved it. So I also played at Regis Jesuit High School in Colorado. Just I was really lucky to have just even throughout my whole experience, playing for some really incredible coaches. Even just starting in the 8th grade, right? Like I had a youth coach, right? My only youth coach, right? Who was really patient with me as I was figuring out lacrosse and how to play, and just incredibly encouraging, right? So I'm really lucky for just having the right coach at the right time, and I'm definitely hopeful that and encourage that the people that are watching this can provide the same for their players. So yes, I faced off and played midfield in high school, and then mainly faced off in college as well. So I went through Regis Jesuit High School. Was lucky to again have a great coaching staff. Play on some really fun teams, really great teams. And then after that, I actually went to Rockhurst University. It's a Division II school in Kansas City. Just another opportunity to play for a really great coach, Coach Kelly, who's doing really great things there still. And then my senior year was actually during COVID, that March of 2020. So senior year got cut short. I was kind of one of the lucky ones where I was planning on going to grad school anyways. And so it wasn't part of the plan to have a 5th year of lacrosse, but I was definitely able to kind of take advantage of starting grad school, and then also being able to kind of make up for that lost year. So I actually played at Lenoir-Rhyne University. It's another Division II school in Hickory, North Carolina. Again, just really lucky to play for an unbelievable coaching staff. Had the time of my life being there. I played there in 2021, and then I coached there in 2022 as well. And then I also coached when I moved here after that year. I actually coached at Centennial High School. I was an assistant coach on their varsity squad. Also, working with their face-off unit over there. But yeah, I'm really excited to be able to present on transition specifically, and just kind of the transition aspects of lacrosse. Lenoir-Rhyne actually had, like, that was a huge focus that we had, was running transition. We played incredibly fast, and right, it's one thing to kind of watch lacrosse and see teams running in transition, but then it's another thing to know what actually goes behind that, what's behind the scenes. And so hopefully a lot of the knowledge that I can share today will help with that. It's actually funny. So my sophomore year at Rockhurst, I was in 2018. Lenore Ryan was actually having a really great season, and they were kind of starting to build a reputation for how they were running in transition. So I remember film sessions at Rockhurst where we're watching film of Lenore Ryan and trying to kind of incorporate what they're doing. And it actually, like, what we did like worked. And then actually playing at Lenore Ryan and coaching at Lenore Ryan, like, we weren't even scratching the surface of what they were doing. So it was kind of cool to have like that full circle experience of, right, like emulating what they're trying to do, but then also actually seeing firsthand what they're doing and how they're practicing it. So yeah, in terms of, I mean, this isn't like a super detailed overview, right? But in terms of what we're doing or what I'm going to be talking about, right, just kind of some concepts behind transition, a little bit of rules that we kind of lived by, and then going over kind of part two, like the different types of transition, um, right? Like 3-on-2, or not necessarily 3-on-2s, but like more 4-on-3s, 5-on-4s, 6-on-5s, even 6-on-6s when we're getting the ball from defense to offense or off of a face-off. Kind of just kind of what those opportunities actually look like and how to take advantage of it. In part two, I'm actually going to be showing a lot of film of uh, just at Lenore Ryan, like both when I was playing there and then also when I was coaching there. Just really, visual learning is so important, especially in a sport like lacrosse. So I wanted to be able to provide examples and what this actually looks like instead of just throwing a lot of information at people and then hoping that they can figure it out. And then at the end, I'm also talking about, just some drills to actually, right, be able to practice and get kids, understanding, right, these concepts, and some hopefully more like game realistic drills so that if these opportunities arise in a game, kids can more likely know where they're supposed to be on the field and what to do with the ball, and hopefully it can become just a little bit more of second nature. So um, so this slide is just kind of talking about like why a transition is important. Um, I think the biggest reason, right, that I think transition is important is that it creates a really exciting form of lacrosse that is extremely enjoyable to play in, right? Both for kids, teenagers, people in college. It's exciting. I played at Rockhurst, and then at Lenore Ryan, and so at Rockhurst, it's interesting with lacrosse, right? Like different regions play the game differently. Um, so like in the Midwest, at least in the GLVC, the conference that we played in, it was very much like slow, not slow, but more 6-on-6, very methodical offenses, right? Defense, half field offense was really stressed. Um, Whereas, right, when I transferred and we played in the South, it was a lot more like run and gun. And so it was super exciting to be a part of. One thing that I really believe strongly in too in lacrosse, right, is that, I mean, you practice so much more than you play at the end of the day, right? And so, I mean, if you play one game a week and you practice 5 days a week, right, like that's literally five times. You practice 5 times more than you play, right? So if the practices, right, like in order to have a good transition game, right, like you really have to structure your practices in certain ways too. And so a lot of that involves faster drills where kids aren't necessarily standing around, right? Like it's very active drills where people are kind of switching positions on the field right away, and they have a lot of space and freedom to move, right? And I think a really important part of youth lacrosse is, right, making it fun so that kids continue to stick with it, right? That's kind of like the most important part of development is just, right, how can we entice kids to stay, right, and to continue, right, the month-long process and the year-long process of getting better, right? And part of that is making it fun, right? And so yeah, I think that's why I love transition and why I really think that that's important to be able to teach and to practice. Another kind of part too is that, right, being efficient in transition, it involves the whole team. Like everyone on the field kind of has a specific role, and gives people roles and opportunities outside of their like standard position, so to speak, right? So, it gives, defensemen or long poles the opportunity to take the ball upfield or to even, right, run onto offense. This was really important for me too, like facing off, especially in college, right? Like it's such a specialized position that, right, when you do it kind of day in and day out, it loses its shine a little bit, or it can, right? But then in transition, right, it kind of gives people a role outside of what they're practicing and what they're doing, right? And so it really in a sense like brings the whole team together. Especially, right, lacrosse is it's not entirely a specialized sport, but there's definitely specialties within it, right? And sometimes that's kind of how practices go too, right? Where you have offense on one side, defense on the other side. You might have goalies doing their thing or faceoff guys doing their thing, right? But practicing transition and running transition has everyone interacting with everyone, right? So it really brings a team together too. And it's really fun to feel like that bond of like if there's a goal, right? Again, you have face-off guys with defensive midfielders, with LSMs, right? All kind of breaking it down and celebrating that. Um, Another part too is that, right, like scoring in transition, right, might only happen like one or two times, maybe even if you're lucky, like three, four, five times per game, right? But I mean, these goals that are scored from transition, right? They're really exciting, right? Like they create a lot of momentum for teams. They can kind of give teams hope, and right in close games, right, they make all the difference. I remember so Lenore Ryan was actually playing in the national championship in 2023, and they were going up against Mercyhurst, and Mercyhurst faceoff guy, he actually ended up being the Division II Player of the Year. A huge reason for that was how he was creating opportunities off of transition, right? He was creating goals off of transition. And I remember, right, the Coach Parody at Lenore Ryan was so stressed leading up to that week because Mercyhurst, every game they had in the tournament was a 1 goal game. And he was accounting for like 2 of those goals, right? 3 of those goals. Without them, right, they don't win. And so again, this gives you a little bit more of an edge. I know this presentation is tailored for youth lacrosse too. Like if anyone in high school ends up watching this too, right? Like scouting is becoming a bigger part of the game as well, right? So if you're a good transition team and teams are scouting you, right, and they're focusing on stopping your transition, that's time spent away from them focusing on what they want to be doing, right? That's time spent from them focusing on what they want to do, right? So that's also kind of another extra advantage. And then finally, right, every college program, and I mean most high school programs I'd say nowadays, are emphasizing some form of transition, or at least in practices, right, they're going through some types of transition drills, right? So I think it's really important too for us as coaches to right, like try to prepare kids for what they're going to be seeing at the next level, right? Obviously not every kid's going to play at the next level, and that's totally fine, right? Like not every kid's going to end up playing in high school or going to want to play in high school, right? And some kids are fine with just playing in high school and not playing in college, right? And there's absolutely nothing wrong with that. I also think that we do a disservice, or we would be doing a disservice, right, if we aren't helping like the kids that want to take lacrosse the farthest, if we're not actually helping them go the farthest, right? And so I know there's not a shot clock in Minnesota high school, I don't believe. So like for basketball in Minnesota high school basketball, I think this is the second season that they've implemented a shot clock, and it's totally changed the way that teams are playing as well, right? And so I don't know when Minnesota is going to get a shot clock for lacrosse, right? I think it's safe to assume that it's going to happen, right? It could be 10 years from now, it could be 15 years from now, who knows? But at some point it's going to happen, right? So if you're already getting kids, right, knowing how to run in transition, right, when there's a shot clock, transition is going to be so much more important than it is now. And so just again, having kids have some knowledge or rudimentary knowledge of how to run in transition can be super helpful. Um, so some of the concepts, right, that I'll be just some initial ones, right, is kind of this idea of like transition versus conversion, right? So Bob Knight's famous basketball coach from the University of Indiana, right? He really harped on this, right? He didn't want his teams to run transition, right? He wanted them to convert, right? So any team in lacrosse can bring the ball from defense to offense, right? That's transition. That in its barest bones, right? That's the definition of transition, right? But not every team can actually take advantage of like scoring opportunities when you're in transition, right? So like with proper spacing, right, that'll hopefully allow your teams and your kids to better know how to actually convert, right, when you're in transition. Another thing that I truly believe in is, right, it's so much more important to know how to run a 5-on-4 or a 6-on-5 break than a 4-on-3, right? I think the 4-on-3 is kind of the easiest to want to focus on, right? Because when you, especially thinking of facing off, right? Like everyone knows, like if you go forward, if you win the ball forward on a face off, right, then you automatically have a 4-on-3, right? With a 5-on-4 or 6-on-5, right, these are a little bit more common. It's a little bit rare to have a 4-on-3. I mean, in youth lacrosse, I guess anything can kind of happen, especially with the ball bouncing around the way it does, right? But especially with a 5-on-4 or a 6-on-5, like if you can have proper spacing, right, if you can know kind of where people need to be, right, then they're not going to be in the way, and everyone's going to be a scoring threat. Um, Also, I guess there's the concept of a fast break or a slow break, right? A fast break is when again, in its barest bones, like when you immediately have a fast break opportunity or when you immediately have a transition opportunity, right? The ball's moving like very, very fast, right? And you kind of have like one pass and then a shot, or one, two passes and then a shot. Whereas like a slow break usually comes off of like when you're clearing the ball, right? Maybe you're throwing the ball around on your defensive side of the field a little bit, and then you get the ball over, right? Things aren't necessarily moving very fast, but there's still transition opportunities. Um, another concept is that I really believe in is that, right, like transition on its surface like looks extremely chaotic. It looks like people are just kind of running around, right, throwing the ball. Like it can sometimes look reckless, sometimes look like it's very risky, right? But beneath the surface, there's extremely clear structure, and there's very clear rules that make it actually organized, right? And then three terms that I'm kind of going to be utilizing as I'm showing clips and as I'm showing film, right, is getting to the pipe, throwing the ball down the side, and then having a trailer, right? So I'll explain it just really briefly, right? Getting to the pipe means that, right, like where an attackman is going to line up at the pipe on a fast break, right? The midfielders actually need to replace that spot, and then the attackman bump up. Throwing the ball down the side just means, right, whichever side the ball carrier is running down, right, they throw the ball to the attackman on that side. And then the trailer, right, is someone that's kind of behind the play, behind the action of where the ball's at. And then kind of somewhere maybe like 12 to 15 yards, right there, they're another opportunity for like a time and rim shot. So that's just kind of what I mean by that. But I'll explain it, or I'll show it, demonstrate it a lot more kind of through film. And then this is actually just I don't know, a picture of an iceberg. This is again how I view transition, right? On that, like the tip of an iceberg, right? Like what you see, there's so much more underneath it. And again, that's kind of the same thing with transition, is that, right? You see, right, people running around, you see the ball moving around. Sometimes it's hard to make sense of, but underneath the surface, right, everyone has a very clear role for where they need to be. That when everyone's doing what they need to be doing, right, it's gonna work out hopefully a lot more smoothly than not. So these are kind of some skills as well that are necessary to create transition opportunities. A really big one is like just the ability to pick up ground balls as a team, right? These are actually a lot of the times, especially off of faceoffs, a catalyst for running transition. Especially, right, like I kind of equate it as a gold mine, where if you have, right, six people kind of fighting for a ground ball and one person picks it up, right? Only one person knows who has it for a split second, and that's them, right? So they are automatically going to have like a three-step advantage before everyone else realizes who has the ball and what direction it's going. Stick skills are so important in order to be able to run and convert in transition. All players need to be able to pass and catch at full speed and while their feet are moving. Without being able to throw those accurate passes, then there's going to be turnovers, or if kids are having to move their sticks, right, outside of their shooting pocket, right, then that can take away a split second necessary to convert in transition. Again, situational awareness is really important. So everyone needs to know where they need to be on the field, as well as kind of how to read the field and how to know, right, where each defenseman is and where to put the ball in relation to where the defenders are. And so, especially like for younger players, right, like even just half field, 3-on-2, 4-on-3, and 5-on-4 drills can really help them, learn how to think about where advantages on the field are. Obviously, I mean, as you get older and older, it's helpful to incorporate more full field stuff just to make it a little bit more realistic. But especially for young kids, I mean, reps are the most important part about developing, especially at that age when their potential is through the roof, right? Where they can really absorb anything. So again, just giving them those half field opportunities of being able to know, right, like again, where everyone is on the field and where possible advantages are and how to take advantage of them. Obviously, right, shooting is important. So like shooting on the run, um, right, while moving your feet. Time and room shooting is really important in transition, and then also like being able to finish in front of the net, super important. And then for goalies, right, like being able to throw accurate passes upfield, right, to midfielders or to defensemen or to LSMs who are cutting upfield, streaking upfield. That's also really important. I'm not really, this presentation doesn't necessarily focus or have a lot of examples of that, right? It's a lot more of, again, off of faceoffs or off of turnovers on defense. But again, goalies being able to, right, clear the ball well is really necessary for taking advantage of potential transition opportunities. So now into part two. Different types of transition. So right, the first one is a 4-on-3 fast break. Right, this usually comes off of winning faceoffs. If a player wins a faceoff forward, or if um, if a goalie makes a save and is able to quickly move the ball upfield. Right, so there's two different types of setups for a fast break, and again, I'll have hopefully show some film of both of these. So the first one's like an L break. Basically, you have one attackman at kind of, I don't know, 12 to 15 yards out, looking to receive a pass, and then you have two attackmen on the pipe. Um, and then there's also a V break, which is a little bit different. You have one attackman on the pipe, and then you actually have two other attackmen kind of 15 yards out. Um, this one isn't, I don't know, necessarily as common, or at least I didn't come across it very much in high school and college playing. Um, but it's really useful if you have two lefty attackmen, because if you have two lefty attackmen and you try to run an L break, then that means one of those attackmen might have to put the stick in their right hand into their offhand, right? And so that might not be super efficient depending on your team. So right, having two lefties and a V break allows anyone at any time to catch the ball in their strong hand. And then it's also really good if you have two attackmen who are really great time and room shooters, because it kind of gives the ball carrier an option to throw it to his left or to his right, and you immediately have a scoring opportunity off of that. So yes, I need to. Sorry, I'm trying to figure out how to. I have to share my screen again real quick to get the other stuff. Cool. Cool. So hopefully you can see this. It looks like you can. So here's just kind of a quick example of a V break coming off of a face off. Um, so this is immediately. So we'll look for the team kind of in white. That's Lenore Ryan. So here's just an example of, again, important to be able to pick up a ground ball. um, right, we're forcing a turnover. So here's another really important concept about first off, stopping transition and creating transition, especially for youth lacrosse, right? Like kids are gonna run towards the ball, right? That's just kind of where they're gonna be gravitating towards, right? So when you're running in transition, right, it's really important to have, right, everyone going upfield, everyone going away from the ball, right? So automatically, right, you see this face-off guy wearing black, right? He's immediately going towards the ball, right? And then you have two players in white who are running upfield, right? That means, right, if we're able to get the ball upfield, there's immediately going to be an advantage. Right, so again, stick skill is super important. Move the ball. So this isn't a great angle, but if you look here, right, we have an attackman right here, right, lefty attackman. We have an attackman right here as well, and then we have right another attackman over here, right. So either of these two attackmen up top, right, can catch the ball, and there's immediate space, right, for them to be able to have, a quick time and room, right. Luckily, we're able to get a goal right off of it, but again, right, that's the setup, right? We can go right, we can go left. And yeah, so that's kind of what that looks like. And then I believe, yep, showing an L break next. Having that for you guys. I believe. Yep, cool. We have a couple opportunities right over here. So this isn't as great of an angle. It's a little bit higher up, but look out for the team in black. So this is actually an example of like one coming off of, I believe, or no, this is coming off of face. Oh, sorry, I'll turn the volume off. So this is coming off of face off again, just the importance of being able to pick up ground balls right away, and how it can be a landmine for transition opportunities. So right, again, like I think that this is really helpful to know that, right, like you don't have to win the ball forward to oh, sorry, wrong clip, actually 804. But again, right, you don't have to score, or you don't have to win the ball forward, right? Actually, looks like the white team has the ball, right? But we're able to eventually pick it up, right? And we're immediately in a scramble situation, right? Everyone's looking at the ball, right? It gets picked up. Again, we get a three step advantage, which in transition, right? That's kind of all we need, right? So this is what an L break looks like. Again, you have an attackman. He's about 5'10", a little bit, probably around 12, 13 yards out, right? We have one attackman kind of at, a step or two above goal line extended, and then we have another attackman as well, right? So we're immediately right in transition, looking at this slide, right? Defenses are taught, right? You have a one slide who's up here, right? And then you're going to have a two slide as well, right? So if you get that one slide, right, you're immediately thrown to that point attackman. If he doesn't slide at all, right, then you're taught, right, as the ball carrier, just keep running, even with that pipe, right, and then taking a shot, right. So that's again where that shooting on the run's important. But in here, there's a step, right, where this defender's committing. So you're moving it, right? And then this attackman's immediately, right, reading, where's this third slide going, right? Is he late? Is he flat-footed and he's over here? If so, then we're throwing straight down, right? If he slides over, right, then we're actually throwing diagonally, right, to an open attackman, right? So that's kind of the case here, right? And that's the importance of being able to finish, right, finish in front of the net. So next, I'm going to just show a quick just transition opportunity coming off of a save, just to be able to give you guys an example of that. So I believe that is this clip. Yep, perfect. Cool. So in this clip, we're on defense, in black, right? So really focus or turn your attention to this defender who's on ball, right? So he's on ball, he's scoring, they get a shot, right? It's a clean save, right? So what we taught, at least at Lenore Ryan, is that if you're covering a man on ball and he shoots the ball, right, you are immediately just running upfield, right? We're looking for a quick opportunity. Because if the goalie makes a clean save, right, you're going to have a step advantage, which is exactly what happens here, right? Worst thing that happens is that, right, the shooter goes behind the net, they back up the shots, right? This gives this defender plenty of time to get back into the play, right? But why we taught this specifically, right, is that especially this offensive player, right, he's shooting on the run, and so when he's shooting on the run, his momentum's immediately either going downhill or it's going towards the sideline, right? So in order to get back upfield and cover his man, right, he has to plant his feet, he has to turn his hips, right? He's doing this while his feet are planted, right? Whereas we're already running upfield, right? So again, he's running upfield, right? Goalie throws an accurate pass. And again, right, we have a 4-on-3 L break, right? Again, the attackmen are forming an L again, right? About 10 or 15, 12, 15 yards out to attackmen up above GLE, right? We're reading this slide, right? He slides, so we're passing it. And again, right, this attackman is reading this second slide or this third slide, right? Is he committing to which attackman essentially? And whichever one he's not committing to, right, that's the one we're throwing towards. Again, right, throwing it forward diagonally and finishing in front of the net. I think I might have one more example of an L break if I can find it. I might not. Might not, but that is okay. So I believe the next part will be talking about a the 5-on-4 fast break. Right, so a 5-on-4 is it's a form of transition that's going to be, again, kind of what we talked about last time, more common when opposing players on the opposing team are moving towards the ball while your team's moving upfield. Right, so this is kind of where the terms like going down the side and getting to the pipe is going to apply a little bit more. And again, so down the side means that the ball carrier who's looking to pass to the attackman, right, pass it to the same side of the field that you're carrying it down. And then um, another kind of quick advice on a 5-on-4 break, right, is that there's going to be one other midfielder or one other pole who doesn't have the ball, right? So they're going to have two options. If they're ahead of the ball carrier and they're running down the field, right, then they need to get to the pipe and they need to turn their head with their stick ready to receive a pass. And then if they're actually behind the ball carrier, then they're going to be the trailer, right? So they sit back a little bit as the ball carrier is getting closer to the attackman. Right, they're maybe sitting back around, again, maybe 15 yards away from the net on the side that's opposite of where the ball is, so that they're shot ready. But yes, I will find those clips real quick. So let's see. So let's get to right. Cool. Let's get to right here. So kind of one first example. Again, coming off of a face-off. Right, so immediately we're running the ball backwards. So here's another key, right? Again, here's what I mean where players are, right? Players are moving towards the ball while we're moving upfield, and this is also kind of goes hand in hand with the face-off strategy, right? We were taught, as wings, right? The players that are on the wings, right, is that we never want to have two of our players guarding one of theirs, right? Because that's immediately going to create an odd man situation, right? So in this right here, right, there's already, right, the ball's popped forward, right, this player is a step ahead, right? So as an opposing team, right, it's very unlikely, right, that you're going to be able to get the ball right off of this, right? So what I would say as attack or as wing players personnel that you need to be doing, right, is that you are automatically need to start running towards your defensive half of the field, right, so that you're protecting the cage, and again, just having more defenders is going to increase the chances that you're actually going to be able to defend a fast break. That doesn't happen, right? So what we do, right, we move the ball upfield right away, right? There's a 5-on-4, right? This guy's trailing, right? There's one defender, three defenders down, right? We have three attackmen and we have two offensive players, right? So, spoiler alert, we score off of this, but right, as this defender, he's kind of caught in no man's land, so to speak, right? Where he's not really a threat, right? And he could easily get in the way, right? So, right, two of his options in this situation would be to either, without even looking at the ball, just sprinting down the field and going to the pipe while that attackman's bumping up, or he can actually just kind of stop moving here, right? Let this player, right, get in front of him, and then this guy can just kind of hang back and be a trailer, right? Again, we're lucky that the ball carrier was incredibly fast, right? He's kind of still able to make the most out of it, right? But again, we don't really want two players this close together on the midfield, right? Because, right, he's not really going to be an option, right? We're lucky that, right, we're still able to score. Um, another quick tip off of transition is that, shots off, like bounce shots, are extremely helpful. Right, getting the goalie to move his stick right down towards the ground, and then the ball obviously changes directions. Right, really throws people off. Um, Yes, so that's one example of, again, right, the importance of, if you're in front of the ball, cutting to the pipe, right, because you don't want to jam the middle. The very next play, actually, I think we got another 2-on-3. The very next face-off, and it's based off of these same principles, right? This ball's picked up, right? We have, right, two guys on the ball, right? We have one guy cutting up field, right? We're moving the ball quickly, right? So in this example, again, we have a 5-on-4, right? One defender, right? Two offensive players upfield, right? So he's acting as a trailer, right? Which is great, exactly what he needs to be doing, opposite of where the ball's at, right? So this player moves the ball, right? And right away, right? We don't score off of this actually, but right, this trailer is wide open, right? We're looking, right, as we throw the ball down the side, right down the side of the alley, right? This attackman immediately, right, should be looking upfield, right, where we have another player, right, wide open, right? He either, right, gets the ball and this defender doesn't slide to him and he scores or shoots at least, right? Or he throws the ball over the top. This defender slides over. Right now we have this attackman, right, who we can move it one more, right, for a shot, right? But the really beautiful thing about going down the side, right, is that it turns the entire defense's heads, right? So we move the ball down the side, right? Everyone's heads looking towards the ball, right? They're not obviously able to see, right, this potentially wide open player, right, who could have a scoring opportunity. Um, I think I have one more from this game. Um, Actually, just a few minutes after this. Right. So again, this is going to be the same thing that's been happening, right? Win the ball, we get 2-on-1, right? When especially, right, you can tell your team, right? Tell your wings, if we win the ball, right? Whoever doesn't have the ball, right? Start moving upfield, right? Calling for the ball, communicating for the ball, right? So that this player knows, okay, I need to turn my head, right, and throw a pass, right? So right away, 5-on-4, right? Because we had two of their players guarding one, and we were able to move it, right? So this is an example, right, of, again, we have this guy who doesn't have the balls just hanging out up top, right? Kind of word of caution about throwing cross field like this, right? It's very high risk, high reward, right? So especially with youth players, right, who, again, like passing while moving your feet might be a little bit more of a struggle, right? So like this pass could potentially be a turnover, right? That's why we really like the going down the side, right? Is that you're getting the ball in the attackman's hands, and usually they have better stick skills, right? As opposed to like right here, we have a defensive midfielder throwing to an LSM, right? So again, right, it can work, right? It can work really well, right? But there's also just some risk inherent with it. So, right, we have a 5-on-4, right? We have one player just hanging out about 15 yards away, gets the ball, right? It's able to score again off of a bounce shot, but um, right, that's kind of a couple examples of the 5-on-4. I think I have just kind of a few more clips that could be useful to show in this. Yeah, so this was in the national championship a few years ago. And this was I wasn't at this game, I was watching it, but this was definitely like the highlight of the game, right? For me, just being able to watch, just being able to see again, kind of everything that goes into this, right? So this isn't just kind of a defensive possession where we're able to get the ball on the field or get the ball on the ground, right? Um, Playing fast, playing very aggressive, right? So ball's on the ground, right? Immediately, right? Picking up a ground ball, right? You look, right? Everyone, even in the national championship, right? An incredibly talented team, right? Everyone's gravitating towards the ball, right? Whereas, right, for us, we're moving upfield. And this is, I guess, another part of transition that I haven't mentioned. It kind of goes without saying, but right, to maximize transition opportunities, right? Like it's really important that, right, like you don't sub off your offensive players right away. Right. So like LSMs or poles, right? They have a role, right? They don't have to sub off right away for a midfielder because if they do, right, then they take away that advantage, right? So in this example, right, we pick up the ball immediately, right? Here's our LSM, right? He's running to the other half of the ball, right? And he's calling for the ball. Whereas this number 3, who should be on him, right? He's either looking to sub off or, right, he's immediately running towards the ball. What this does is, right, leave someone wide open, right? So we have a 4-on-3, but we actually have a defenseman who sees the play, right? Right, who we trust to have the ball in his hands, right? He's already kind of hunting for this opportunity, right? So what's really cool about what I love about this clip, right, is that we have this immediately, right? Our coach knows what's about to happen, right? Everyone on the team knows what's about to happen, right? I don't know what he's saying, right? I wasn't there, but I can guarantee, right? He's saying throw it down the side or down the side or kind of in some variation, right? So, right, he's throwing down the side. Everyone's turning their eyes towards the ball, right? We have this trailer coming in, right? So here's his options, right? If this defenseman doesn't slide fast enough, right, we have a quick time and room shot. Or if he does slide, right, then we can throw it down to this attackman, right, for a shot, right? But again, right, we're throwing the ball down the side, right? He's cutting this guy who just had the ball, right? He's not just standing there. He's actually kind of starting to move towards the pipe, right? We're throwing it, right, and we're getting a goal off of it. I think I have. Let's see if I can find one more just to show you guys. Just I know, hammer home the point, but super helpful. I hope just to be able to see film. And so here's that. Okay, so here's one. I'm actually going to go back to a 4-on-3 situation really quick just to make one more point. I couldn't find this film earlier, so right. So here's another reason why or nope. This is actually cut that. We'll go back to the 5-on-4 example. 116. Right, so this is again just showing that you can get transition even without winning the ball forward, and again how important it is to pick up ground balls. So Right here, right, we're able to fight for a ground ball. We have two guys on one, right? We're moving the ball upfield, and we immediately have, right? We immediately have a 5-on-4, right? So here's what I mean, right? We have one midfielder who is playing the wing, who's in front of the ball, right? So he has a role, which is to get to the pipe, right? So if you watch here, right, he's running to the pipe, he's turning, right? He has his head up, right? This attackman who was down low, he's sliding up actually to be an outlet, right? So if you look, right, potentially, right, we could feed it down here. We could have an opening, right? But the reason why a 5-on-4 or why cutting to the pipe is so effective, right, is that right midfielders playing defense, right, aren't used to being kind of closer to the cage. They're used to being closer upfield and kind of at the top of the box, right? So if you're looking at this defend or at this guy right here, right, he's staying up top, right? And then the guy who's recovering is also an LSM, right, who's used to playing upfield, right? So he's going to be staying upfield, gravitating upfield, right? Again, we have another midfielder, right, who's used to playing defense kind of in this top half, right, kind of at the 25-yard line or higher up. So by sending a midfielder down to the pipe, right, that actually leaves them open, right, and it adds an extra wrinkle to what you can do, right? So obviously, right, if we're able to move it right here, right, we automatically have a 3-on-2 on this side, right? We're trying to create advantages, right, that we can hopefully take right, make the most out of. And so in this example, right, unfortunately, we weren't able to convert on it. But again, that's just the reasoning of why it's really important to send someone to the pipe, right? Just because again, they're gonna get lost, right? Defensemen are used to guarding attackmen, right? And midfielders are used to guarding midfielders. But right, again, when teams are taught to play with such rigid roles, right? Like again, midfielders playing defense at the top of the field, right? We can take advantage of this by sending someone to the pipe. And again, right, turning your head, right, looking backwards, right, looking for the ball and being available. Um, so that's kind of what a 5-on-4 looks like. And now I think we have just a few clips of a 6-on-5. Right. This is very similar to a 5-on-4, just with an extra man. So a 6-on-5 is kind of more off of a face-off. At least a 6-on-5 is kind of more common when an opposing team's face-off player, if he's behind the play, right? I could definitely imagine this kind of, especially with youth lacrosse, right? If kids get tired, right, they're not going to be hitting that extra gear necessarily, right? They're going to be running a little bit slower, right? So this could be an example that we take advantage of, right? Or unfortunately, right, if this is a team that plays again has very rigid roles and is right teaching right your face-off guy that right if you're not playing defense, right, you're subbing off, right? That's another kind of example that we can immediately take advantage of a 6-on-5. It can also occur kind of during a slow break, right? If the opposing team, right, turns the ball over, or if there's a save, right, maybe they're going to run someone off the field right away to get their LSM on the field, right? We can still take advantage of the time it takes for that LSM to get back into the play. So, right, kind of the same concepts that I've kind of briefly alluded to are going to apply, right? First, we want to move the ball. Whoever has the ball, right, we want to move it down the side, right? Whoever moves the ball, right, you don't just want to stand still, right? You're either trying to get to the pipe or you can set a screen for the attackman, right? And then out of the two remaining players who don't have the ball, right, that are midfielders, right, or LSMs or poles, right, one needs to get to the pipe again, get to the opposite pipe, or you can kind of roam the middle as well, right? And then the third player needs to act as a right? Third needs to act as a trailer, right? Needs to again kind of be behind the play and be an outlet. So have a few examples again of this. So right away, right? So again, we're looking for the team in white, right? We want the face-off back, right? And kind of what we knew scouting, right, is that this team's going to run their face-off guy off. Again, this can apply if everyone's still on the field but one guy's just trailing, right? So when we see this guy, right, we're turning our heads, right? We see he's subbing off, right? We're immediately going into our 6-on-5, right? So there's actually, right, we're communicating, right, to this LSM who's here, right, hang back, right, and be a trailer essentially, right? You can kind of see with those hand movements, right? And he knows, okay, right, hang back, get behind the play, right? We're looking at him, we kind of know what's happening, right? We're throwing the ball down the side, right? You can either set a pick or this guy can actually go to the pipe, right? But everyone's again looking towards the ball, right? We're throwing it over. We actually have a second guy trailing right here. So again, we have another 3-on-2 opportunity on the left side of the field. But because we practice these situations, right? We have a shot and a goal right away, right? This is the same Pole who actually scored in the 5-on-4, right? So again, this is a super exciting brand of lacrosse, right? It allows players, right? Everyone can score kind of at any given moment, right? And again, right, like I know this Pole number 8, right, who scored both these goals, right? Like he enjoyed coming to practice every day, right? Because he knew, yes, right, his job is to play exceptional defense, and he knew that he was also more than that as well, right? So again, we have a trailer, right? We're going down the side, right? We're going over the top, right? For his time and room step down shot. Um, We actually have another example of a 6-on-5 coming off of a face-off. Right, and again, this is why I think, especially for youth lacrosse, like practicing ground ball drills is so important, right? Because again, right, 2 or 3 steps ahead of the ball, right? So again, same rules apply. Like this guy's subbing off, we know right away we have a 6-on-5, right? So we have a trailer, right? We're going down the side, right? And then we have a guy cutting to the pipe right away, right? So we're able to get it there, right, and score, right? And this really reinforces like the importance of stick skills, especially in being able to catch and pass while moving your feet, right? Because if you kind of look at both of these passes from here to here, from face-off guy to attackman, and then from attackman to the cutter, right? Like no one had to move their sticks at all, right? Everyone had their sticks kind of in their shot pocket, didn't have to move, right? So we're able to get the ball out right away. And again, right, we're taking advantage of, right, split second opportunities, right? Attackman doesn't have to move his stick, right? Midfielder doesn't have to move his stick at all, right? So that's why it's really important, right, to harp on the ability to throw, catch and throw accurate passes. Um, I believe, yeah, I mean, we have a ton of 6-on-5 examples, so I'll just only show a little bit more just for the sake of time. I'll show one more. Um, Another reason why it's really important to get to the pipe. Um, right, basically, kind of what to look out for too is that the pipe, or is that the player that gets to the pipe can actually also serve as as backup as well, right? So right here, right, we win it forward, right, but they're sending their defenseman over here, right? So we automatically have a 4-on-4, right? So we're going down the side again, right? We saw someone just subbed off, right? Their face-off guys subbing off, right? So we know right away we're in a 6-on-5, right? Going down the side, right? We have a trailer right here. Again, this face-off guy who just made that pass, right? He's cutting to the pipe, turning his head, right? There's a shot that goes wide, but because we had someone on the pipe, right? We had backup, right? If this guy wasn't here, this goalie would be the next guy closest to the ball, right? And right, we lose possession essentially. Um, so again, that's kind of what a 6-on-5 looks like. And again, right, in terms of creating transition, right, the keys and stopping transition, right, is that defensively, right, like you never want to be moving towards the ball, right? You want to be running upfield, and then same thing with offensively, right? Like if we see someone, right, if we see a teammate that has the ball, right, we want to be running upfield, right? We want to be creating as much space between us and them as possible, right? Because then, right, we're able to kind of spread the defense out a little bit more and have them commit to one person. So that's kind of what a 6-on-5 transition looks like. For the sake of time, I might skip a few things, or I might just show something real quick before going into drills, right? So even right with transition, it's easy to only equate it with like odd man situations. So again, right, 4-on-3s, 5-on-4s, or 6-on-5s, right? But we can also, and this also kind of goes with face-off strategy as well, right? But right, we can take advantage of if both teams are subbing at the same time, or if neither team subs off, right? So one thing that we can do, right, um, one option that we have, right, is that if face-off guys are on the field, right, again, unfortunately, right, many teams aren't going to teach face-off guys, at least at higher levels, like how to play defense or how to do things outside of facing off, right? And I hopefully as youth coaches, right, you're encouraging your guys who face off to, right, be involved in offensive drills or be involved in defensive drills, right? But one thing that you can do is that you can actually kind of like clear one side of the field and have your face-off guys set a screen and take advantage of that, like for your best attackman, right? So just kind of a quick example of that. Um, let's see. Right, so right, we win this face-off. Again, we're looking for the team in white. He's not subbing off, right? So, right, and we had a call for this. I don't even remember what it was, right? But we immediately see, right, everyone on white, right, is staying right as far away from the play as possible, essentially. Right. So what we're doing is we're having this attackman take a couple steps up, down towards the net, right? Because defender set up, right? We're having this face-off guy, right, kind of set his feet, again, have his hands within his shoulders, right, set that screen, right, because right, usually face-off guys don't know how to handle a screen, right, or how to play defense against the screen, right? So what he should be doing is stepping up field, cutting this off so that his teammate can help, but he's not, right? So by getting that defender caught up, right, and having everyone over here, right, we're spreading out the defense, we're creating a much bigger gap for this guy to slide, right? And we're able to score off of that, right? So that's just kind of one example of like a 6-on-6 situation that you can take advantage of. And then I think I have just kind of one more, or actually, I'm going to share my PowerPoint again. Another thing that we did at Lenore Ryan, at least, that you can still do with youth, right, is that, I mean, usually players that played defensive midfielder at the college level, right, played offense in high school, right? So they have very, very good offensive skills, right? They can still, right, they can still shoot the ball very well. They can still dodge, right? So what we would do by taking advantage of that, right, is that we would actually have, right, we would have our defensive midfielders at times that we trusted, that we would have them dodging against offensive midfielders who aren't subbing off the field, right? Because, right, what they're doing, right, is now they are creating an advantage because offensive players might not be as equipped to play defense, or at least in the youth level, right? Like if you're having kids sprint back on defense, right, they're backpedaling, they're moving away from the cage, or they're moving towards the cage, kind of away from the man, right? Whereas if the ball carrier is moving towards them, right, then we're taking advantage of their momentum going away from you, right? So we would actually call this green, right? It's basically, right, whoever has the ball has the green light to score or to dodge, right? So whoever the ball carrier is, right, he's bringing the ball upfield and he's still a skilled dodger, right? They have the green light to dodge whoever's covering them. Um, so I'll just kind of give a quick example of what that might look like. Um, and again, right, this is just another example of, right, the importance of being able to win ground balls. Oh my God. All right, there's an ad real quick. There we go. Right, so right, we don't even win this face off, right? But because we focused on ground balls so much, right, like we're able to know how to keep the ball on the ground, but then also how to pick the ball up, right? So The ball comes upfield, right? We're able to get this, right? So right away, we're having a face-off guy sub off. They have a face-off guy sub off, right? That's a 5-on-5 situation, right? This defenseman, right, knows his matchup most likely, right? So he's trying to find his matchup, right? So, right, we have this guy automatically, right, going down field against a midfielder, right? And so what we do in green is, again, we clear out one side of the field, right? And we have one attackman kind of sit on the pipe, right? Or go about 2 steps above goal line extended. Because what that does is, right, that makes this defender, right, make a choice. Am I going to slide upfield, right, where we can now pass it and have a situation where it's just us and the goalie, or is he going to stay on his guy, right, and let this midfielder take advantage, right? So we're actually able, right, first goal of the game, 15 seconds in, right, we're able to score, right? And again, I think this might have been like a 2-goal game, right? So again, taking advantage of a transition opportunity, or at least off of an immediate face-off win, right? That kind of makes all the difference. So that's kind of what we have for the film session of this. I think I just have a few just some drills to be able to go over. Um, right. So I it's hard to know kind of right like what your guys' youth situations are just in terms of like numbers, right? If possible, it's really helpful to practice right transition drills full field, right, with 2 split teams having offense and defense on each side. Obviously, right, it's totally understandable like if you're not able to have those numbers, or if it's just depending on if kids are on vacation or whatnot, right? But this is one that we really like to do, right? It was a face off to both a 5-on-4 and a 4-on-3, right? So we have orange going upfield on offense or blue going downfield on offense, right? So right, this is a full face off, full live face off, right? We have wings on both sides. So basically what happens is, right, if orange wins the face off, right, both these wings, number 2 and 4, are going, right, and they're running a 5-on-4 break. So what that means is that either 3 and 2, right, has to stay back and play defense. And usually it's the one that's closest to the ball. Right. So if 2 picks up the ball, right, 3 is going back on defense. Both faceoff guys are just kind of hanging back in this instance and going for the next and just waiting for the next faceoff essentially. Right. So if orange wins, again, they have a 5-on-4 break where we're focusing on the same things, right? Of going down the side, of being a trailer, getting to the pipe. And then on the other side, right, for the blue wingman who doesn't play defense, right, he's actually getting a ball rolled towards him and he's running a 4-on-3 right away, right? Again, you can go to the V break, you can go to an L break. Obviously, I had him set up in an L break in this instance, right? But right, what's really cool about this is that both sides get a transition opportunity. It's a live situation as well, right? It's not necessarily artificial, right? So the wingmen can be at any position, right, on the field and then have to run transition. This is also a really good cardio drill for the faceoff guys as well, right? Like, I mean, if we do this we would do this drill sometimes for like 10 minutes and you're taking like, I mean, you could be taking upwards of like 15 to 20 faceoffs, right? Like that's a lot of really good reps, right? Learning how to take faceoffs when you're tired. I really harp on too, right? As just from my experience of facing off in college, right? Like it's really important to learn how to take pressure face offs as well, right? So like if you're just sending your face off guys kind of off to the side while offense and defense are doing their own thing, like sure they can get a lot of reps in, right? But they might not also be quality reps, right? Because if you're having your face off guys take 40 face offs, right, on their own with no one watching, in a game, right, maybe you're taking, I mean, it depends on the team strategy and what the score is, right, but you're maybe taking 15 to 20 faceoffs, right? So, right, we really want to practice more of, right, not taking a lot of faceoffs, but more of, right, how can we learn to make the most out of these faceoff opportunities that we do have, right? Also, what I really like about this drill is that the whole team is watching, right? So from a face-off guy's perspective, right, this is a lot more pressure than if you're just taking face-offs, right, away from everyone, right? Because, right, no one knows how you're doing, no one knows if you won or lost, right? No one's giving you a hard time if you're losing, right? Like you're just not feeling that pressure that you're going to feel in a game, right? Whereas if everyone's looking at you, right? Like you're going to have to learn how to handle that pressure, right? And how to still be focused on facing off despite the external stuff that's going on. So that's one opportunity, right? Facing off to a 5-on-4 and a 4-on-3. Here's another staple that we would do. It's a 2-on-1 midline ground ball. So again, right, if you can do this, you can probably still do this half field, depending on your numbers, right? But this is what we would do full field. So again, we have blue upfield on offense, right, with 3 orange defenders, and then we have 3 orange, right, attackmen downfield with 3 blue defenders, right? So what we would do, and we can kind of switch this, you can switch this up as a coach, right? But for the first half, we would have, right, like we would have 2 blues at the midline, at midfield, right, and then 1 orange line, right? So what you're doing is, as a coach, right, you're rolling the ball towards them, right, and that you immediately have a 2-on-1 ground ball, right? Again, a lot of the clips I showed, right, we're creating transition off of ground balls, right? So what happens is, right, if blue wins, or if the team that has the advantage wins, right, they're immediately going to a 5-on-4 fast break. Getting the same concepts, right? We're trying to go down the side, right, where we have a trailer and we're trying to get to the pipe. If the team that has the disadvantage, so in this case orange, if orange wins, what we're doing is we're actually subbing 2 extra orange players, and then they have a 6-on-5 now, right, going downfield, right? So if 7 wins the ball, right, he's still, right, maybe we have a 4-on-3 break right away, or, right, if we don't, right, then basically we have 2 guys in line behind him who are subbed in, right? One has to be a trailer, right? One has to get to the pipe. So that's just another really good drill for, right, getting people to, right, get to their spots in transition. Again, like without, like, in where the ball could be anywhere, right? It's one thing to kind of have cones set up, right, where everyone knows where the ball's starting at, everyone knows where the defense is, everyone knows where the offense is at first. Whereas like a drill like this, right, like we could pick the ball up, right? Orange could pick the ball up on their defensive half of the field and have to run upfield, right? They could pick it up like three yards away from their attack man, right? We're just kind of creating more game realistic situations where people have to make kind of split decisions. Um, okay, this is. I wish I had film to describe this drill. This one's a lot more complicated, but it's such a great drill. I actually still have access to our huddle, our film at Lenore Ryan, but they ran out of space, like storage, so they had to delete their practice clips. This is such a good one. Like we did this probably every practice, right? But this is really good for getting stick work in and getting shooting in, right? So basically what you're doing is, right, you have a line at the midfield, right? And then you have an attackman kind of in that point position, right? Kind of 12, 15 yards away from the ball, and then you have another line where people are, right, kind of one or two steps above goal line extended. So what we're doing, right, we have numbers. So 1's up top, 2's in the middle, 3's down low. We actually have lines here, right? So there's more people behind 3, there's more people behind 2, and then there's more people behind 1, right? But we can get a lot of different progressions and variations, right, to kind of practice transition stick work, right? So one rolls a ground ball to himself. He's immediately moving it to player 2, the point attackman, right? Player 2 can pass it to 3, right? And then 3 finishes, right? The lining for this is that then 1 goes to player 3's line, player 3 goes to player 2 line, and then player 2 goes to player 1's line. So this is really cool, right? Because you're getting defensemen, right? Right, at attack positions, right? You're getting attackmen, right, running down the field. So we're just getting stick work in different sides, where players usually might not be playing, right? So that's one variation. You can also have one, again, rolling the ground ball. He passes it to player 2. Player 2 passes it down to player 3, and then 1's cutting to the net. Player 3 hits him, and 1's finishing. I think everything else I'm going to be talking about is a give and go, right? So 1's passing it to player 2, 2's going to pass it back to player 1 on the move, right? 1's going to pass it to player 3, and then player 3 finishes. Um, Again, we have a give and go, right? 1 to 2, 2 to 1, right? 1 passes it to player 3. Yep. Okay. So this is what the arrows is describing, actually. I did this for a reason. So 1's going to pass to player 2. 2's going to pass back to player 1. right? One's going to pass to player 3. So what one's going to do now, he's cutting to the pipe, right? Kind of what we're talking about. He's turning his head, right? It's really important to focus on the details, right? Because even if he's not going to get the ball, right, he still needs to know where the ball is, right? He still needs to be an outlet, right? Because if his head's turned to the play and he's open, no one's going to pass it to him. So, right, one's cutting to the pipe, right, turning his head again, right, stick in his shot pocket, ready to receive a pass. Two's actually going to cut to the middle of the field, right, still about 12 or 15 yards, kind of emulating that trailer position, right? Three is going to pass up to two, and two is going to have a time and room shot. That's again kind of emulating that, getting the ball down the side, right? Throwing over the top to the trailer who has a time and room. And then the final progression, right, is again, it's that same give and go, right? 1 to 2, 2 back to 1, one's hitting it to 3, one's now cutting to the pipe, turning his head, right? Two's still cutting to the middle in that trail position. We're throwing over the top to him. Now what player 2 is going to do, right? He takes a step in as if he's going to shoot, and then he actually passes down to player 1, right? Who's at the pipe, who has to finish up front, right? So even just with 3 players, right, we're kind of getting a little bit of everything, right? Where we're again picking up a ground ball, right? We're moving full speed, we're throwing accurate passes while on the run. We're getting time and room shots in, right? We're getting feeds and finishing to the in front of the net. Just kind of a little bit of everything. And again, it's really fun because again, you have defensemen playing as attackmen, right? You have attackmen playing as midfielders. So again, it's really fun. Here's just another quick ground ball drill that I think everyone kind of, or I don't know, don't want to assume, but that it's pretty standard, right? So it's just kind of an odd man situation, right? Where it's you can either do a 3-on-2 or a 2-on-1. But again, right, we have one blue, right, or we have two blue and then one orange in the middle, right? So the coach can start behind the players, behind the line where they don't know where the ball's coming from, or he can be rolling the ball to them, right? But again, right, we're creating the importance of picking up ground balls because again, right, those are a gold mine for transition. So what we do is if the team with the advantage wins the ground ball, they have to move the ball to their other teammate until everyone gets a touch, right? As the person who lost the ground ball as he's playing defense, right? So if one picks up the ground ball, right, one on orange is now pressuring the ball carrier, right? Two has to get open, right, and receive a pass, right? That kind of emulates again, kind of what we did, what the film I showed off of faceoffs, where right, whoever picks the ball up, right, if there's now two guys covering him, he needs to find the open man and he has to be able to throw an accurate pass. What we do now, if the odd man, if he wins the face off or if he wins the ball, number one, if he picks the ball up, right, he just throws it back to his coach, essentially, right? We don't want to just stop, right? We don't want to stop a drill when someone picks up a ground ball, right? Because in lacrosse, you're immediately moving your feet, right? And to create transition, you're looking upfield, right? So we pick up the ground ball, right? We have to find open space. We have to get away from a defender, or we have to get away from pressure, and we still have to throw an accurate pass. So that's another drill that we did a lot. I have kind of two full field passing drills here. They're just kind of emulating a slow break, right? Wish I had some film on this, but basically, right, double zeros in the net with the ball. He's a goalie, right? So this is kind of emulating more of maybe a fast break. So what two's doing is he's kind of banana curling or basically just cutting to the sideline, right? As he cuts to the sideline, right, the goalie's going to throw a ball to player two. As player two catches the ball, right, he's immediately turning and looking upfield and moving his feet, right? We're having player three kind of cut to player one, right? He's sprinting, right, moving his feet, has to be able to catch a pass on the run, right? When player three gets the ball, right, player four now is cutting upfield, right? So player three has to turn his head, he has to throw across his body, right? Throw an accurate pass to player four, who's again hopefully moving full speed, or at least like with youth, right? I think it's not so much moving full speed, but more so of like moving as fast as you can while still being under control, right? Because anyone can run as fast as possible and drop a pass, right? But we want them to be moving as fast as they can and then still just like slightly outside of their comfort zone, right? We don't want them to be so outside of their comfort zone that now we just have balls going all over the place and no one's getting better, right? But when they're slightly outside their comfort zone, right, that's still forcing them. It's still a realistic challenge that they can meet. So right, player 4 is running upfield, right? Player three is throwing across his body while moving. He gets the ball, and now player 5, right, is kind of V cutting, right? So he's cutting, right, taking a step towards the cage and then cutting towards the sideline. So in this example, right, like player 3 should be catching and throwing with his left hand, and then player 4 should be catching and throwing with his right hand, and then player 5 should be catching with his left. You can make this a full field drill if you want, right? If you have enough players, right, then you just set the cones up the opposite direction, right? And then you can kind of have two balls going downfield at the same time. And you can switch directions too, right? Where instead of banana curling this way, right, you're banana curling to your right. Um, and then here's just kind of this one for doing like a slow break situation, right? So player 1's actually going to get the ball first. He's cutting towards the goalie who throws to him, right? As he gets the ball, player 2 is cutting upfield, right? We're throwing an accurate pass to him. Once player 2 gets the ball, player three's, you know, cutting or moving past the midfield as if we're in kind of a sub situation or in a clearing situation, right? So we want player 2 to like lob the ball over. We don't just want him to throw a straight line pass because, right, if there's an attackman there, they might be able to get their stick on it, right? So it can be helpful to have maybe like a coach over here, right, trying to deflect any passes that are thrown too low. And then once 3 gets the ball, then we just have 4 cutting to the net, um, and receiving a pass, right? In this drill, I guess you could have him finishing out front, or if you have enough players, right, you can just have him throw to the goalie, and then we just have lines going the opposite direction. So that is the right. Those are kind of all the drills I have. Just kind of really quickly want to go over face-off strategy for youth lacrosse. Kind of talked about some of it a little bit, right? Right, it's really important off of face-offs when you get the ball, right? Everyone needs to start running upfield, right? We don't just want to watch the ball, right? We immediately are turning our heads, right? And we know where our spots are, right? We're trying to run to the pipe, or we're trailing, right? So they know where they need to be, even if they don't have the ball in their stick. Um, but especially for youth lacrosse, like, I mean, I don't know if hopefully this isn't controversial, right? But I think face-offs are less important the younger right? The younger the kids are playing, and this is coming from someone who did it for 5 years in college and 4 years in high school, right? Like this is really a time for kids to learn how to play lacrosse, right? Like the beautiful thing about lacrosse is how fast paced it is, right? How quickly the ball moves up and down the field. So if as youth coaches we're teaching kids to like, I don't know, really have one role so early on, lacrosse isn't gonna be fun anymore, right? And I was really lucky at Lenore Ryan, right, where I think they kind of knew that like for me, I needed to do more than just facing off, right? So that's why I really liked in practice. We're in every transit as face-off guys. We're in every stick work drill, right? We're in every transition drill. They threw us into defensive drills, right? Just because, right? Like it's important for us to know how to do everything, right? And so it's really important for coaches to be doing that as well, right? Like we would have even in Lenore Ryan, like we played in the NCAA tournament, right? And like I remember having like a huge matchup, right? I'm going up against one of the best face-off players of all time in all of not just Division II lacrosse, but all of college lacrosse, right? And I didn't necessarily feel as much pressure going into it. I still did, right? But I didn't feel as much because the coaches let me play scout team defense, right? So, right, like whereas maybe the other player is thinking about me all week, right? Trying to think about what I'm going to be doing, and he's fixating on that, and he's focusing on that, and that's all he's thinking about. Like that puts a lot of pressure on him. Whereas for me, like I get to be a lot looser, right? I'm obviously still scouting him. I'm obviously still trying to do my job come game time, but I also get to enjoy lacrosse for that whole week by playing a different position. I think I was scout team LSM even, right? Like I get to play an entirely different position, so I'm not just thinking about facing off, right? Like it's really important for youth lacrosse just to let your guys that face off also know how to do everything else. So, right, one way to do that is have one guy on each midfield line kind of be designated to face off. Right, so like if you have 3 lines, then you have 3 different face off guys. Right, that really reinforces that it's not one guy's job to face off, right? Because then we're teaching that guy, right? Like you are doing so much more this game than just facing off, right? You're playing offense, you're playing defense, you're clearing the ball, you're riding, right? Like they get to do everything. So that when they do get to high school, right, maybe, yeah, sure, maybe they are focusing more on facing off. At least they're enjoying lacrosse. At least you're teaching them, like you're letting them be athletic, right? You're letting them develop their stick skills. You're letting them develop their understanding of lacrosse, right? And that's kind of what this is all about. So if you, another one is like if you have players lined up on your defensive half of the field, it's going to decrease transition opportunities that you're going to give up, right? So just like for example, like right, and like if number one on orange is a really good face-off guy, right? We can have three and we can have two on blue, right? We can have them further up on the defensive half of the field, right? And that's just going to decrease the chances of him either going forward or if he does go forward, right? We at least have guys that can hopefully, right? We have wing players who are in better position to stop the ball. Again, right, for youth lacrosse, I think, I mean, even in college, right, like facing off is just a glorified ground ball at the end of the day, especially with the way the rules are now, right? The ball's on the ground a whole lot more. So, right, by teaching your team how to just by doing ground ball drills, right, like you're teaching you're teaching your guys who face off the most important part of facing off, which is at the end of the day picking up a ground ball. Sure, it's important to know how to do different moves, right? They're going to be able to pick that up as they get better at it, right? But for the time being, right, I think focusing on ground balls, especially in youth lacrosse, is helping will help your guys who face off have the right perspective, right? Where they don't have to just focus on clamping, they don't have to just focus on countering or raking or lasering the ball, right? They just have to focus on either picking up the ball or keeping it on the ground so that someone can pick it up. There's a whole lot pressure that way than if you're fixating on every tiny aspect of the face off. Um, Especially with youth lacrosse, right? Like if you put your best players on the wing, right, your best players at picking up the ground ball, whether they're attackmen or defensemen, right, that can also give you a really big advantage. We would do that sometimes at Lenore Ryan, right, where we might, if we knew we were going to win a face-off, we'd put our best attackman on the wing so that we can just get them the ball right away, and then we can just get into our offense a whole lot faster. And then like if we have an advantage facing off, you can also put two short sticks on the wing, right, so that you have guys who are better handling the ball as opposed to maybe a pull. In a lot of in some of the clips I showed, we actually have two short sticks, and we did that for a reason, right? So that if we have a trailer with a short stick who played offense in high school, that's a whole lot of a better opportunity potentially than a defenseman or an LSM. Again, we still trusted our LSMs and defensemen a ton, but we also just right like we also just have to sub one less guy as well if you already have two short sticks on the wing. So those are just I don't know, just some different strategies that you can kind of play around with, but especially with youth lacrosse, right? Again, I think kids are going to get better facing off just by learning how to just by getting the reps in. I know there's so many organizations out there that teach facing off, and there's so many resources online, right? Like I know there's like the Face Off Academy, post a lot of stuff on YouTube and Instagram, like Greg Grenlian, Grenlian, I think has his own YouTube page and his own Instagram where like they're teaching little tips and tricks about how to face off. Those are so important, and I think kids will get better just doing that as they practice it more or as they just do it in games. I think if you hyper focus on facing off for youth lacrosse, um, you put a lot of pressure on kids, right? Like it's already such a tough position. Like it's already so mentally draining. Like you're on an island, literally, kind of every single face off. Right. Obviously you have your guys on the wing, but it's still like it is a 3-on-3, and there's also a 1-on-1 within the 3-on-3. They're already feeling all that pressure, right? So if you're hyper fixating on that as a coach, or if you're like making that their role and their identity on the field, like it's going to burn them out at some point. So those are just kind of some thoughts to think of. Obviously, you have a questions page, but there's no one here. So if you do ever have questions, I didn't like put my information on this, but if you ever want to reach out to Homegrown, just to get my contact information, I'd definitely be more than willing to talk to people and to answer any questions. I focused a little bit more on transition than facing off today, just because facing off in and of itself is kind of like a 12-part series,
Mhm.
right? So I don't want to go too far into it. But like if you ever have kind of more specific more specific questions about facing off, or even just anything else transition wise, definitely like love to help, love to talk, especially just like I don't know, having faced off for so long as well. Like that's it's important like for us as I don't know lacrosse players to share the knowledge that we do know.
Hmm.
So like if you're a parent or a coach who doesn't know a whole lot about facing off, definitely don't hesitate to reach out. So
Awesome. Yeah, thanks, Zach. And I will link to some of those YouTube videos. I'll put them up underneath this video on our website, that's got all the virtual coaching stuff. So that should be easy for those people to find because I agree. And some of it is like it's hard to show you on camera such as this, where like those guys have it set up to like explain it a little bit better too.
mhm,
Yeah.
absolutely.
So awesome. Yeah. If you want Zach's contact information, just reach out to me or Jing and we can get that to you or Megan, any three of us. And we'll, yeah, thank Zach for his time and I will stop the recording if I can see where my button is. Cool.